Hello, friends. It's a happy half-hour joint practice edition, which is different than the normal happy half-hour training camp daily special edition or whatever we're calling it.
Should we have brought a Browns reporter in here? It did not occur to me until this exact second.
Or brownies. Maybe we should have had brownies. I don't know. I will tell you.
Go get some brownies.
I will tell you, I did bring our memento of the day. We'll just start there. The Cleveland Browns occupy a special place in the history of the Carolina Panthers for two reasons. Number one, original team president and Hall of Honor member Mike McCormick was a Hall of Fame tackle for the Cleveland Browns back in the day. The original owner brought him here to lend a little gravity to an expansion team, and it worked. They went to the NFC Championship game in their second year. But also, the Cleveland Browns were the very first professional home of one Sam Mills, and that's why they keep pounding hats back there on the wall, because Sam Mills went to training camp with the Browns in 1981, and they decided they couldn't do anything with a 5'9" linebacker, so Sam Rutigliano cut him, regretted it, called Carl Peterson of the USFL's Philadelphia Stars and said, Carl, don't cut this guy till you see him hit. And Carl Peterson did not, even though he wasn't sure he wanted a 5'9" linebacker. And the rest is history. Sam goes on to a great career in the USFL, comes here after his stint in New Orleans and becomes a Hall of Famer and a legend throughout the Carolinas. So
what a fun little story time.
There is your story time with Uncle Darin to kick off this issue of the Happy Half Hour. A lot of stuff going on today, even beginning before practice. Let's get right to the news. Jaycee Horn was involved in an automobile accident right outside the stadium this morning on his way to work. Thankfully, Jaycee and everybody involved is okay. Jaycee's got a little bit of a cut on his hand, got some stitches this morning, so he did not practice, but he was out there. The good news is no long-term damage or anything like that, and everybody else is okay. Tip, always put on your seatbelt. So you see what I did there?
There's Jaycee's
Jaycee
next
was,
commercial.
in fact, wearing his, so everybody's good. But everybody's okay. Jaycee wasn't out there on the practice field. Probably not going to play Friday night in the opener, but was still out there being Jaycee Horn, which means antagonizing Bryce and tormenting people and just doing what he does.
It was good to see him walk out on the field and realize, okay, he's upright, he's okay. Because you hear accident but minor, he's okay, but you still want to see him with your own two eyes. And I think it helped a lot of the guys to see him walk out on the field as well. And to know he was okay. He got out there early, just like you normally would, obviously in street clothes, but he was still helping guys as they kind of went through drills, went through warm-ups, just favoring that left hand a little bit, understandably.
You can tell when Jaycee and Mike Jackson have a day off or whatever, because they're always walking around with a script in their hand, the way I walk around with a notebook in my hand, and they're just, staying engaged. And I think part of the reason Jaycee does it is so he knows what the offense is up to, so he can antagonize Bryce and Chuba and everybody else on the other side that he's normally antagonizing. So that's what Jaycee does. The good news is Jaycee is well, so that's the best thing. And now on to practice. Oh, by the way, there was a whole nother football team out there today, and when you stack another 125, 150 people in that practice field, all of a sudden it's visual clutter. There's a lot going on, so it's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, it got really crowded really quick. I think you and I kind of split up the two fields because there was just too much to watch, and it made it exciting. Everything looks a little different when all of a sudden you're going against a new team. You saw it on I mostly watched the field that had the Panthers offense going against the Browns defense. And, Bryce and the offense kind of struggled a little bit at first. I don't want to say necessarily struggle, but it's just, getting a feel for a different defense, getting a feel for a team you haven't faced before and, haven't scouted. It's not like it's a game where you've scouted and game planned. And they were just figuring some things out. It got markedly better as the practice went on and started to find some connections with guys. Jalen Coker had a big day. I think he did something in every single series with both Bryce and Andy Dalton. T-Mac had an up and down day where he would have a big drop and then come back with a big catch. I'm kind of jumping ahead now, but whatever. I'm on the microphone. Canales had a really cool point in his press conference today where he said, there was a play where Bryce was targeting T-Mac and he dropped it, and I knew which play he was talking about because I was standing right there when it happened, and it looked like he had it. It was good defense, but then he kind of peeled away. There's an epic photo on our site from it where the Browns guys laying on the ground holding T-Mac's glove from one hand and his other hand is stuck up. He didn't survive the ground with the ball. But Canales said Bryce turned around afterwards and was just smiling at Canales, and they shared a smile because in that play they found something that they had not previously been able to do with T-Mac, and it was a way Bryce kind of put the ball and where he put it, and it was so obviously you want him to come down with those, and I think he will. But it was more so a case of that's something we haven't done before with him. That's something we can add now. And that's what training camp's about. And you might not have seen that going up against your own defense because they already know you know them. Mm-hmm. But, you get a look like that and you get something brand new.
Yeah, and a lot of good competition. And you could see it at a number of different positions. I mean, over there on the field where you spent most of the day with the Panthers offense, Ike Ekwonu, buckle up your chin strap, my friend. That's Myles Garrett on the other side from you. Just your basic, and I don't toss this around casually, but I feel okay saying Myles Garrett's on track to become a Hall of Famer one day. I mean, he's like 6-time All-Pro, former Defensive Player of the Year. Myles also out there today doing press conferences with no shirt on. And I almost did this podcast with no shirt on, but frankly, I appreciate you guys watching it. And I don't want to do anything to scare you off. So nobody needs to see that. Myles Garrett makes me feel slightly inadequate as a human being, but he's also good work for Ike Ekwonu and the rest of that offensive line because, hey, here's one of the best in the games. Buckle up, play hard, get yourself better. You saw it on the other side of the field. I mean, without Jaycee on the practice field, that leaves Mike Jackson out there to chase Jerry Jeudy around. And they kind of went back and forth. I mean, Jeudy gets behind Mike at one point, turn around a couple plays later, Mike breaks up a pass for Jeudy. So, I mean, it's good competition, and that's what they want. I think the best news of the day, and Dave Canales talked about this, is no fight.
Yeah.
Usually when you get in these situations, it's hot. People are sick of looking at their own dudes, and the first time they see somebody else, they just want to punch them in the face. The first time they have an opportunity. But none of that really today. Everybody was on their best behavior.
There was one time, because there were a couple of times where something could have flared up and it quickly dissipated.
There was a couple of times when something could have flared up.
So the one with Chuba in particular, he had a hard run and then something kind of flared up. And I think Jaycee Horn ended up getting in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Because there was some water bottle sprayed. But the flare up right before that was on the other sideline, and nothing, it was just kind of pushing and shoving everybody together. Right. But the funniest part of it was you have this scrum of guys that are kind of moving, trying to decide if they're going to escalate or not, and then you see two bodies kind of break away from it, and it was Bryce and the Browns linebacker Devin Bush. And they kind of just turned and looked at each other, shook hands, laughed, and walked away.
That's right.
And it was like, okay, that's what we're getting with fights today.
Yeah, that's right. That's a veteran move, actually. That's the best way to handle practice fight. I'll always remember Luke Kuechly talked about this because what makes every situation better?
You can never go wrong with adding more Luke
Kuechly story. In the famous Cam Newton-Josh Norman fight of 2015, Luke's first move was to find Greg Olsen and grab him. Because those two weren't going to do anything. They were just kind of over there dancing together. And that gave the impression that they were occupied while everybody else was doing their thing. So everybody got along. It didn't even rain all that much. We were all prepared. We came up, geared up today in our rain pants, jackets, umbrellas, the whole 9 yards. No rain.
Right. It didn't start until literally they were in their little team huddles to walk off the field. And Canales said he prayed for a window, and, buddy, he got it. It could not have – it was raining right up until it was time to walk out around 9:40.
Yeah.
And then it didn't start again until they were walking off the field at around 11:40.
And during one of the quick breaks in the middle of that practice, I pull my phone out and I look at my weather app. Thanks, Brad Panovich. And there was one little window carved out that was right over downtown Charlotte. And we were the one place it wasn't raining at that moment. And I was like, we are just going to sneak this thing in. And so it was good. Everything we mentioned yesterday, I mean, those guys on the grounds crew have done a tremendous job keeping everything together. But it was good work all the way across the board.
And that's what you need this time of year. As teams kind of change how they approach preseason games, granted, the Panthers are changing.
That's right.
You know what I'm trying to say. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as teams in general change their approach to preseason games, these joint practices are really where you get a lot of that work in.
Right.
Because, we don't know. This is pure speculation. I'm just guessing. This is a hypothetical situation. Let's say Myles Garrett doesn't play on Friday.
Which is reasonable. I think Myles done enough to.
Taylor Moton and Robert Hunt. I'm just throwing names out there. Let's say for whatever reason they don't play. You're not going to really be able to fully gauge and judge your offensive line.
Right.
From a situation like that. But they were all out there today in joint practice.
Well,
taking live reps.
And the other thing, and I'll be completely honest with you, I prefer a good joint practice to a preseason game.
Right.
Because, A, most of the people you're paying attention to in a joint practice are going to be on the team in the fall. And B, coaches can dial up exactly what they want to be. I mean, Dave and Kevin Stefanski have known each other for over 15 years. He talked today about them working together as GAs back in the day. And they can get together and say, all right, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get 12 good reps of 1-versus-1 red zone. And they can set that up, and they can practice it, and they can script it and do what they want. And if they want to do, 40 move the ball, they'll do that. I mean, you can get exactly what you want, whereas in a preseason game, you've got those uneven groups of personnel, and you never know what situation you're going to get. So I like from a standpoint of getting the work done, this is so much preferable to what you're going to see. That does not mean that there's no good reason to come to this game, because there are plenty. Because Jimmy Horn's stepbrother, let's go
close enough.
Stepbrother Shadur Sanders,
brother by proxy.
That's right. Shadur's dad, Dion, famously called Jimmy Horn his favorite son of all his sons he had out at Colorado, and those two got to catch up today. Shadur is actually starting Friday night.
Yeah.
Stefanski said before practice he only had 2 of his 5 quarterbacks, 6 sort of, that were able to play on Friday night. And so it's going to be Shadur Sanders, Tyler Huntley, former Raven, who
Tyler
just
Huntley's
joined them.
in that quarterback room now?
Yeah, that just happened.
How many quarterbacks are in that room?
6 total.
That, you know what they say, if you don't have 6, you don't have enough.
Well, they've got a lot, and signing Tyler Huntley this week so you'd have 2 to play in a game, I think, is handy. Because, again, what's Joe Flacco have to prove by playing in a preseason game? Not all that much. So, yep, we get to see Shadur, and that's going to be interesting. And I got to tell you, this is not just me trying to sell tickets. Our friends in the ticket office downstairs are doing a great job of that as it is. But I had a friend of mine out in the community this week said, going to use your tickets this week? I kind of want to come see Shadur. And so there's a little bit of buzz about this preseason game. I think because it's his first game after so much attention was paid to him during the draft, there is a little bit of a curiosity and a little bit of a buzz about what's going on Friday night.
I mean, and let's be honest, there are certain names in the football world that carry weight. Next year, Arch Manning's going to be on a team. And if he plays in a preseason game, that thing is going to probably sell out. Well, maybe not for a preseason game, but there's going to be a lot of people there.
Attention will be paid.
Attention will be paid. And Deion Sanders' name is one of those names that carries a lot of weight in the football world. And so, and his son was I don't know if you like to go to bed early and you don't like college football. So those of us who stay up late and love college football, like a bunch of sickos, I watched a lot of Colorado games at, 12:15 a.m. in Charlotte this past year. And they were fun, and a lot of that had to do with Shadur. Is he completely polished? Maybe not, but he's talented, and he sure can make something out of nothing.
Did your mom never tell you nothing good ever happens after midnight?
Well,
because my mom did, and I always listened to Sandra Gant when she said that.
Nothing good happens after midnight gets completely eclipsed by Pac-12 after dark. That's what we called it on the interwebs.
Woo. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see from a lot of different levels. I am curious to see. I mean, we caught a little bit of it the other night at FanFest, but I'm interested to see Jimmy Horn in a real-life football game. I want to see what he does against opposing defensive backs, because there have been moments out here in training camp where he looks like, okay, he's got that burst. You can put him in space, and if you get him in space, he can do neat things. And we've even seen from FanFest, he's got some defensive ability too.
Yeah, he went out there. Apparently he wasn't completely happy with his tackle. I don't even know if I told you this, because what's today, Wednesday?
That's right.
When did they last practice?
Yesterday. In
Sorry.
the monsoon.
I don't remember what day it is.
The memories just washed away.
Jimmy, because think about it. Jimmy plays on offense, And when he's on special teams, he's a returner.
Mm-hmm.
He could probably count on one hand the number of times he's had to tackle somebody in his life.
Yeah.
And one of them was Saturday night trying to tackle Lathan Ransom on that fake punt return. But on Tuesday, I guess Jimmy wasn't completely happy with his tackling on that play. He goes out and he jumps into the tackling drills. He was like, hey, they were doing the ring, and he was like, hey, let me get in here. I got to get some tackling work in.
Yeah. You know how I knew about that, Cassidy?
Did I tell you that story?
No, I read about it on Panthers.com. You may have actually put it on our website that we create for the people to document everything that happens here in front of our own two eyes. But yes.
Listen, I don't remember what day it is right now.
Jimmy's got a little fire about him. And again, as we talked about in the top of the show, discount short guys at your own peril. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Speaking of, Steve Smith was out there today.
That's right. Steve Smith was out there. A lot of legends were out on the field. Michael Barrow.
Nice.
Of course, you remember Mike Barrow's contributions to the Carolina Panthers. While she Googles former Miami linebacker Mike Barrow, of course, was the bridge at middle linebacker between Sam Mills and general manager Dan Morgan.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mike was a big-time player, long NFL career.
His birthday is a day before mine.
Well, there you go. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Mike Barrow was out there. Brinson Buckner was out there again. Always good to see Buck, Kevin Donnelly, Kurt Coleman, and a cast of thousands. There were so many people out there on the field.
There were. But, it actually wasn't near as crowded as I thought it would be. Everybody seemed to fit pretty well.
Well, and
it worked.
It was well planned. And when you've got two people, again, like Kevin Stefanski, Dave Canales, who know each other, know what they want to get done, you can actually behave like adults, get all the practice you want to get in, and take care of that.
So random, but I just thought of this, and I should have shared this story earlier. When everybody was pretty much off the field, there's like 5 people left on the field. I was still out there. I was waiting on Mason Graham. That's the story that's going to come later today on Panthers.com.
That's called a tease, folks.
Right?
Check out Panthers.com later for all that.
And he gets done. He's walking off, and we're walking over. He lucked out. He got to ride back on a golf cart since he was the only one. And I said, you're a rookie. You're not allowed to do this here. And he's like, we don't get on the golf carts at Cleveland. I was like, well, don't let Jaycee Horn see you. You might get fined. Anyways, but he's walking off the field, and we're getting ready to go to the golf cart. And he's like, oh, man. And he stops. And he turns back around, goes over. Myles Garrett had left his pads and his helmet with his jersey for Mason Graham to pull in because, that's what you got to do when you're a rookie. You got to bring the older guys' stuff in. It just cracked me up that, like you said, Myles Garrett had done the interview shirtless.
Yeah.
And he left that stuff right there to make sure that Mason Graham brought it in for him 20 minutes later.
That's right. And Mason Graham's another one. Good, another top 10 pick out of Servite High School, who happened to be an old high school teammate of a certain Teteroa McMillan. And Cass going to have all the latest on that for you at Panthers.com. So much other stuff. We didn't even get Trayvon Merrick talk today.
Yeah.
Big day for the defense, in particularly the run defense is starting to show a little bit of life. I mean, that was a thing, even without Derek Brown out there on the field today, even without a Jaycee Horn, who ain't afraid to stick his nose in there. You can tell there's just a little more solidity, solitude,
that's a word,
solidification.
Sure. Shakespeare made up words all the time.
Yeah, I will too. They're getting better at run defense, and you could see a little bit of evidence of that today. And really, it goes back to what we've talked about all offseason. You spend money on a Bobby Brown to sit between Derek and Ashawn. That makes your defensive line a lot better. Then you've got a Turk Wharton who's coming in as a pass rusher.
Right.
You go get a Pat Jones, who's a big edge setter at outside linebacker, not just a pass rush guy. And then you go get Trayvon Merrick, and he's a safety
103
gang,
tackles.
but he is a guy who was brought here for the contribution he can make to run defense. And you could see little bits of that throughout today's practice where those guys are starting to kind of learn what each other's all about.
Spend money to make money. Speaking of Pat Jones, did you notice he went in coverage yesterday? It's so fun. And I saw him later and asked him about it, and he's like, did I look okay? And I was like, you looked like you were there. And he
looked great, Pat. Completely natural. You remember, many moons ago or last week, he had the interception in camp.
That's right, yeah.
Early in camp, yeah. Pat fades back into coverage. Say that 5 times fast. But, they're starting to put it together, and that's why Friday night's going to be another important test because, again, Are the starters going to be out there a lot? Not necessarily, but they've got a lot of depth guys. I think when you start seeing second-string guys, okay, let's see what Princely looks like against actual-sized NFL offensive linemen in pads who are trying to exert their will on him. There were a couple moments out there today where he gets out there against the ones and gets kind of held up a little bit. He gets in there against some of the down-the-line Browns linemen, and you see that speed burst through again. Poor old I forget the guy's name. There was a poor offensive lineman from the Browns who just kind of got turtled by Cam Jackson.
Oh, yes.
At one point today, just kind of rolled over on his back, and there wasn't a whole lot he could do. Cam's that size of human being. And again, he's not getting a lot of attention here because he's running with some of the down-the-line groups, but he's going to get a lot of snaps this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
You know, they talked so much this offseason about upping the competition, and you do that by adding so much more depth. And this is where, you know, for as much as the joint practices are really, really helpful, especially when it comes to your ones, preseason games are really, really helpful to see what you have there with your depth and for those guys to make an impact. You know, you look at a room like the wide receiver room that's incredibly deep this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of those guys play a little bit longer on Friday than maybe even some of the other guys, just to kind of help differentiate and figure out who can kind of stand out.
No doubt. And keep an eye on the guy, the closer from today, Bryson Tremaine.
Yes.
I think we've mentioned his name exactly once on this podcast prior to now. Bryson Tremaine, touchdown to close out practice, the end of the day from Jack Plummer. He is a big body, and because he's got size, Canales talked about him today. He's like, we can count on him as a blocker in the run game, which is a big part of what they want to do, obviously, in this offense. And he gives them an opportunity to have a receiver who contributes on special teams. So, you know, again, how much is Bryce going to play? I don't know, maybe 8, 10, 12 snaps. There are going to be a lot of snaps played by guys like Cam Jackson, by guys like Bryson Tremaine that are going to be really important for the Carolina Panthers picking this team.
Yep, that's what makes it exciting for those guys, too. This is where guys like Jalen Coker, you know, you think about that Buffalo game last year. Jalen Coker had a big game there, and that was post Bryce's 12 snaps.
Yep.
That was with Jack Plummer and some of those other guys. I think, was that still Jake Luton era?
Could have been.
Yeah, something like that.
So
this is when those guys can kind of make sure coaches are forced to pay attention.
But that's right. Friday night. Right here in this building, Bank of America Stadium, 7 o'clock, 7:30?
Yeah, 7.
Who are we
7.
kidding? We're both going to be here at like 2 or something on Friday afternoon. We spend all day in stadiums on game days. It's going to be real live football. There might be pushing and shoving. You never know. Chuba might bow up on somebody again like he did today. We'll have it all for you on Panthers.com. Make sure you subscribe to the team's YouTube channel. That's where all the cool video is. We got podcasts for you. Matt, Jordan and Jake this week? I've been so busy. Okay, next week, Jordan and Jake. Listen to last week's Jordan and Jake because it was outstanding. Wherever you find your podcast, wherever you find your Panthers.com, oh, that's right here. We'll see you next week on the Happy Half Hour.